Hello and welcome to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at a scenario where the Soviet Union returns. And I have done this before, but since then I've gotten many new maps, and well, speaking of new maps, I do have one. This is it, and it's very detailed. It is the same map I use for What If Civilizations Start Over. And on top of this, I have added a terrain, I didn't draw this, I found it on a different map. But if I turn up the opacity, you can see just different types of terrain. But I'm going to be leaving it it's still noticeable, but yeah, it just makes it look more realistic. And on top of this, there's a water effect. But anyway, we can get right in the video. But before we do, I have something to say. And I want to point out this was recommended to me by a commenter and a viewer. So thank you for commenting. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Anyway, here is the Soviet Union. One other thing I do want to say about this map real quick is provinces. Whoever made this map hand drew provinces, and this is amazing. There's different levels of provinces, from country borders to disputed borders. They all have different colors, and it's just amazing. So that is great. But anyway, let's just get right into it. But also, I do want to say that we're going to have to ignore pretty much every alliance, including, NATO, and just a bunch of other alliances, like the European Union, just every single alliance. We're going to just be dissolving all of those, which does include the United Nations, because, well, this couldn't really happen if the Soviet Union wouldn't be able to expand anywhere with the United Nations, because they would just try to stop them, and they wouldn't be able to do anything. But now we can actually get right into it. And they want the old Warsaw Pact back together and under their control. So they are going to go ahead and invade Romania. Their troops are going to enter in from Moldova. And unfortunately, we don't have capitals, but I know generally where they are. So the Soviet Union is going to go down and capture Bucharest, I think. I'm pretty sure. And pretty much after this, the rest of Romania is going to be a kind of just a sweep. Hungarian forces will enter in, though, to try and retake some land. They know they don't have a very good chance, but they will get a good chunk of land. And Soviet forces will clean up the rest of Romania, making sure to cut the Hungarians off so that they can't get any of this, and they will quickly clean it up. So we can take a look at this peace treaty, which will probably be following provinces. And so this is going to be the peace treaty. As you can see, this border that Hungary gets does follow these provinces. And the rest is turned into a puppet state or a satellite state or whatever. But I put that on a separate layer so we can turn that on and off if we want. I'll keep it on for now. But the Soviet Union is going to start to try and build relations with certain countries, like China, because even though NATO is gone, there is still kind of like most likely if France went to war, the United States would probably, well, I mean, I don't know if they'd, there's probably still kind of like a lingering of like, they would still probably help the country, but it's not like you have to. Anyway, the Soviet Union is now going to go after Poland, as they want to get Poland under their control, of course, and they're going to start their invasion, and it's going to go pretty well at first, but the Polish are very nationalistic because of how many times they've been split up in history, and they're not just going to let the Soviet Union run over them, and so they probably wouldn't have something like this happen, but the Polish are going to push back and re-liberate a good chunk of their country as the front lines begin to stop. And hopefully Germany doesn't get involved in this war, but the Soviet Union will continue to ramp up their invasion, and it will continue to see success, although not big success. But I'm not quite sure where Warsaw is. I think it's like somewhere right here. I think like right there. That seems right. Maybe a little more there. Maybe a little more there. But the Soviets are going to push towards Warsaw, and Germany is actually thinking about helping Poland in this conflict, but France and the United Kingdom and the United States will stop them because Germany would not win against the Soviet Union, and of course these Western countries don't really want World War III right now, so they're going to make Germany not help Poland, which the Poles are a little bit mad about. And the Soviet Union will continue their invasion, and they will now probably somewhere over here capture Warsaw. And the Polish are still very nationalistic, but the Soviet Union will push them back very heavily, and it is very bad for Poland, and eventually this area up here, where previously I believe Danzig was, will be taken over by the Soviets and encircled as they continue to encircle Polish forces, and eventually Poland will just begin to completely fall. I honestly don't know if they would surrender, but we're just going to say that they get wiped out and will fall under Soviet control. But there is still a lot of war going on with, rebellions. And so before an official deal is met with Poland, the Soviets will declare war on Czechia and Slovakia, as their forces that were just occupying Poland and fighting are now heading straight for Prague and will capture it. And with this, they will split Czechia into multiple parts, and then Czechia will fall, and they will now go over and capture Bratislava, and Slovakia will soon fall after Czechia, and a greater peace treaty. I don't know what I just said. I think I said a great peace trio. What I meant to say is I don't know if I'd say great, but a big peace treaty happen over here between Poland, Czechia, Slovakia, and of course the Soviet Union. And most likely these countries will be turned into puppet states, but let's see. And this is a peace treaty. As you can see, the Soviet Union has taken a good amount of land. That's kind of hard to see, but a good amount of land from the Polish, and that is because the Soviets are mad that the Polish resisted and defended their country, so they take land to, I guess, just show them. But anyway, Czechoslovakia is back. So yeah, I don't know how that would go. But the Soviet Union wants to now get Hungary because, Hungary used to be part of the former Warsaw Pact, and so they declare war on Hungary, and they will start to invade. Actually, I guess, hold on a second. Let me turn puppet states off for this war. But just remember, when it's Romania or Czechoslovakia or Poland invading a country, it's also the Soviets. Unless I say it's only them. But anyway, Romanian and Soviet forces will go over the border into Hungary, as Hungarian forces will go just into Slovakia. They're trying to just get as much land as possible. They capture Bratislava and will attempt to get rid of Slovakia, or at least what used to be it, as Soviet forces will flood into Hungary from Ukraine, or what was previously Ukraine, and now Czechoslovak and Soviet forces beat the Hungarians back and will push them all the way out of Czechoslovakia, recapturing Bratislava, of course, and they reach down and will capture Budapest, and from here it is just forces going in and taking as much land as possible, as Hungary will be fully occupied. And we can take a look at the peace treaty. And with Hungary Hungary's land that they gained at the start of the video taken away from them and given back to Romania, they are also made into a Soviet puppet state, and after this, the Soviet Union will send an ultimatum to Bulgaria, and they will accept it and become a puppet state as well, rather than having a war. And now Serbia tells the Soviet Union that they want to reform Yugoslavia, and the Soviet Union says that they will help them with that, and so Serbia will invade Kosovo, which will cause Albania to join the war and supply Kosovo. And as Albanian forces arrive, little movement will be made until Soviet forces will arrive, and Albania is pushed all the way back. And what the Soviet Union will get out of this is a puppet state in Albania and an ally in Yugoslavia. And so Albania's capital is long gone, and the rest of Albania will fall. And soon after this, Bulgarian and Serbian forces will move into North Macedonia. And then Montenegro will side with Serbia, and a bigger, or just a cluster of Croatians, Slovenians, and Croatian Bosnians will group together into one unified force for now. So it's kind of confusing, but basically a temporary union will be formed between the Crows, I think that's what they're called, the Croatians, and the Slovenians. And, you'll notice that Bosnia is split, and that is, of course, because the rest of it is a Serbian majority. And so the war will begin with Croatian forces quickly encircling Serbian ones over here in Bosnia, and they will start to take them out, but they will still hold their ground. And Serbian forces will capture Sarajevo and re-link up with this encirclement. They then flood into Croatia and begin to take much of its coastline, and it's at this point that Bosnia will fall and surrender, and from now, Zagreb is spearheaded up to, and this part of Croatia is cut off, and I don't know where Slovenia's capital is. I believe it's called Ljubljana. I might be pronouncing that wrong. And, the rest of Croatia and then Slovenia will quickly fall, and we can see this peace treaty, which, let's just see this peace treaty. And so this is what happens. There's a lot that happens here. One, Yugoslavia reforms, kind of. Serbia will annex Montenegro, Kosovo, Bosnia, and will puppet Croatia and Slovenia. And Albania will receive a little bit of North Macedonia. And Serbia and Bulgaria will receive half and half of the rest of North Macedonia. And Albania will become a Soviet puppet or satellite state, and also the Soviet Union will become allies with Yugoslavia, and that pretty much covers this. But now we see Soviet forces through Poland launch a small offensive into Germany, and this will ignite a war. And I'm just going to do it like this to make it kind of simple. So the triangles are on the Soviet Union side, and the circles are on the Western side, and it does include the United States, but this is what the world is looking like. Or, I said world, I meant the war sides. But yeah, the war will happen, and German forces will retaliate and start to go into Poland, where they will be seen as liberators and as suppressors, because, it's Germany and Poland. But German forces will have some more success going into Czechia, or actually Czechoslovakia, and capturing Prague, and they will have great success over here. But Soviet forces will now arrive and begin to hold the front lines. But the British are going to, most likely using their bases over here in Cyprus, go ahead and topple the government of Greece and force them to switch sides, or not switch sides, they weren't in the war, but go ahead and align with the Western countries. And so Greece will start their offensive into Bulgaria, where they will spring up towards Sofia and attempt to capture it. Actually, I don't know if I accidentally made them capture it, but they'll get very close to it and push back Bulgaria, as well as going right on into Albania. And they are having great success in the Balkans. But now Soviet forces will arrive over there, which will cause a little bit of a pushback by the Western countries over here in Poland and Czechoslovakia, especially as U.S. soldiers have arrived. But Soviet forces will push back now, retaking all the land down here and this land over here that was taken from Yugoslavia. And Albania is now liberated, if you want to call it that. I guess it technically is kind of liberated. But now Bulgarian forces, well, not just Bulgarian, Soviet forces, Eastern forces will enter into Greece and take tons of land, as especially the Yugoslavs will make sure to take a bunch of land, and naval battles will happen over here as well. But we now see South Korea invade North Korea, taking this as their chance, as they have Japanese support. Probably not U.S. support because they're in a war, but Pyongyang will be captured, and then North Korea will fall, and this proves as a big trouble, as South Korea will annex North Korea. But this is what the Soviet Union needed, because now China has joined the war, and with it brings in South Korea, or more so just Korea now, and Japan, as well, also Taiwan, if you consider it a country. These are the only three countries that are gonna be involved in this war, and this is just turning into World War III. There's also not a whole lot of time, so I'll try and do this sort of quickish. But the Chinese will now stroll right in to the previously North Korea, and they will just absolutely wipe out what would be South Korea. But it's kind of just turned into Korea. But anyway, it is wiped out, and this is very not good for the Japanese, and they also enforce a naval blockade around Taiwan, and they will capture any islands outside of the main island. They then will land and quickly take control of Taiwan, and the Chinese are having great success over here. With China in the war, Greece will lose all motivation and will surrender. I'm just going to color them the same color as Yugoslavia, even though everyone is occupying them. And the Soviets now have just one front to focus on, and this front is going to be heavily pushed back, and very not good for Germany. If I can get these colors right. Dang it, no I can't. There we go. But anyway, Germany will be pushed all the way out of Czechoslovakia and Poland, and now Berlin will just be captured right there, and U.S. forces are fighting fiercely, but it seems it is not enough, as Hungarian forces and Soviet, and I should just say Eastern forces, will now go up and capture Vienna, flipping over the government. No, it's all Poland now. But they're going to go ahead and flip over the government and get them to join the war, as I'll color it in after, but they kind of just become another Soviet puppet state. And with this, it is Germans fighting against Germans, or I mean, I guess they technically are Austrian, but anyway, Munich is now gone, and the Austrians, no, the Eastern countries, Eastern forces will push in to south of Germany, and further advances up here in what was before 1990 East Germany. And with two fronts to worry about, forces will start to withdraw, and but the my brain's not working anymore. But there's a huge encirclement over here, and the Austrians and the Polish will wipe out the entire thing, leading to a very big problem for the Western countries, as now these forces begin to just run through the rest of Germany, and they reach all the way over into the Netherlands, and they will capture Frankfurt. And this is very bad, as now they're sitting on France's borders, and that's very frightening. I'm just gonna go ahead and color this part Austrian, but yeah, France will hold a little part of Germany, and they will go ahead and send their troops out, and they will re-liberate a good chunk of Germany, recapturing Frankfurt, I believe, and just re-liberating a good chunk of South Germany. But over here it's not going too good, as Japanese forces are getting destroyed by the Chinese, and the United States doesn't think they are going to win this conflict, as all these French forces that were just fighting are now being ran over by just the such big amount of Soviet soldiers, and Germany falls completely as more Eastern troops enter into France now, and they will go ahead and start to march towards Paris as they go along the border of Belgium, and Paris soon falls, and with it, hope for France, as the rest of France is just kind of steamrolled, and Corsica is captured, and South France will completely fall over. Spain does not get involved in this conflict, and Eastern forces will push all the way over to the English Channel. And speaking of English, the British are going to leave the war. They don't think there's any hope for them, and no other countries want to get involved. And so now the Americans will also leave the war, and with it the Japanese, putting an end to this war, which I don't know if it would be classified as World War III, but let's go ahead and take a look at the peace treaty. That rhymed. I didn't mean it to rhyme, but that's pretty cool. This is what it looks like in Europe now, with France being let go, but with a warning. And Austria and Germany both become puppets of the Soviet Union. And over here in Asia, North Korea returns and annexes the South, as well as some islands being, from Japan, being given to either China or North Korea. And also Taiwan is annexed by China. And yeah, that's actually going to do it for this video. what if the Soviet Union returned, of course. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.